Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies. I know A&M can win without Wade Taylor, but it sure makes it much more difficult, especially going on the road against a top 25 team. I'm not saying they can't do it. I think they've proven that they can pivot and do some big things. But yesterday's news, while not out of left field, we knew he's been dealing with an issue. Certainly sucks to go on the road to Norman and play them.
Have they ever been without Wade since he's been here?
I'm sure he's missed some time here. But I guess my point was more, Wade wasn't himself, and
That's
you beat
true.
Texas at home. Texas is not as talented, or maybe they are as talented. They're not as good as Oklahoma.
Probably not, even though they played Auburn within 5 points last night.
They were down by 20-something. They came back.
I don't know how good Oklahoma is. They may be excellent. But, boy, they've got some good wins. They've had a lot of close ones. I don't know. I know A&M is not as good without Wade Taylor.
Yep.
They're just not.
He's their best player.
He's their best player, and so you're going to play without your best player. It's a great it's a team game, and this is a great gauge to find out, just how good they are top to bottom. Because if you take away Wade Taylor out and you're able to still go out and win on the road against a good team, nobody's questioning whether Oklahoma's good. I'm just wondering just how good. But if you can do that without Wade Taylor, then you take a step back and say, whoa, what is this team capable of?
So now how does the offense shift? Zurich Phelps going to have the ball a lot more in his hands. Manny probably as well. And, and I don't know if Zurich will get the same green light that Wade gets to shoot some of those threes. I mean, he can shoot the three, but I don't know if he gets the same green light.
Yeah, no, I think his game is more about the attacking the rim, and but maybe you'll see more of C.J. Wilson.
Yeah,
more of like the other day, more of Hayden Hefner. But somebody's going to have to step up, and it doesn't have to be one person, but it could be several. But somehow they're going to have to replace about 16 points a game.
Well, look, A&M's, even with Wade in the lineup, sometimes struggles offensively. Sometimes. This year feels it hasn't been as often, right? Like there's been these moments, and that happens in basketball games.
The first game and Oregon game.
Yeah.
And that's really about it. I think in their last game, maybe one time they had a 4-minute scoreless streak, but it's been few and far between, unlike, some past years.
But your best offensive player out, other people have to step up. Where A&M, I believe, has the decisive advantage is rebounding. Oklahoma struggled there.
Yeah.
A&M beats most teams rebounding. That's what they do, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So expect more Andy, more Solo, more Pharrell Payne. That I expect that. They're going to have, and we're going to hear a soundbite from Buzz here in a minute about just how they win gritty. But this team that's the definition of winning gritty. They're going to have to do that tonight.
Yeah, and you're better in all facets with Wade on the floor, but there's no reason to think that they still won't play that suffocating defense that they play. Every team A&M has played this year has been held below their average shooting percentage, and OU averaged about 48% on the year. So we'll see if they can keep that trend intact, and if they do, that'll go a long way with toward A&M having a chance to win that game.
I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, A&M is undefeated when they're fully healthy. Because I believe, didn't Zurich miss the...
he missed the first game.
Right.
And I don't know who was out against
Somebody
Oregon.
was definitely out for the Central Florida game. Or excuse me, the Oregon
that was
game.
Oregon, I can't recall.
I don't... Solo? Okay, so what...
Okay.
Well,
then you're right.
Yeah.
Solo was out, you're right.
Yeah, so integral piece to what they do. So let's hear from Buzz Williams. He was asked yesterday about just the team's identity, how they like to win gritty.
It's the only chance we have. And similar to, it may have been you, I can't remember, on Saturday, I think it's the awareness of our group that's the recipe that we have to follow. But I also think that it's their acceptance of that recipe. That's what I would say is different. I don't think that the guys that have been here multiple years are caught off guard by what we practice or what we emphasize or what we say. But I think their acceptance of it is at the highest level that it's been since they've been here. And I think some of the continuity of that acceptance you can see. Because it's not just Buzz accepting it or Travis accepting it or Olin accepting it. It's accepting it collectively, but then also individually. And I think all of us are aware of that. And that includes me. That's not just the players. I think there's great acceptance and awareness within the entire organization. Landry, Grant, Josh, I think the players are aware of that as well. And so we don't have a lot of inefficiencies relative to time because everybody kind of knows what the buckets of responsibilities are. And we don't have the best players. We don't have the best coaches. But I think collectively that we're aware of our limitations and accept those limitations and know that we're probably going to have to try to bend the game or the possession in a way that at least gives us a 50-50 chance. I think that says a lot about their IQ, but I think it also says a lot about their character and consistency and willing to do it day after day.
I know that was a long answer, but he does describe them. And one of the things I love about Buzz is he'll give you the nuances, every angle of his approach, and that's who they are.
Yeah, in fact, we had Jace Carter before Buzz, and he was saying about that same subject and the grittiness is that, that's their identity.
Yep.
They understand that's their identity. They embrace it. Not only just accept it, they embrace it. I think they like that for lack, I said it again, that identity. They like having that as that reputation. As the let's say yesterday, they're not just the blue collar guy; they're the no collar guy.
Yeah, right.
So, they do like that. But I think the talent is a little better than maybe Buzz is letting on. I think he's sandbagging just a little bit.
Well, I think he also wants his team to think that.
Right.
That's like that edge, like, oh, people don't believe in us. People don't think we're the 5-star, 4-star guy. They think we're just these guys that come to A&M because we try hard. Well, yeah, you got to try hard no matter what your star is here.
Well, remember what the old strength and conditioning coach for football, Schmidt, used to say? Said, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Right, yeah. Great bite. The other thing I wanted to bring up, OB, is we know in football it's hard to win on the road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we know that all too well.
Yes, we do.
In November especially. But beyond that, in basketball, it is hard to win on the road. Did you see some of the stuff yesterday?
Oh, my gosh, it was crazy.
Tennessee loses by 30 to Florida.
Well, Florida's good now.
Yeah, but Florida, I believe, lost by like 25 this weekend as well.
Well, they lost their last game by 6. They lost 106 to 100 to Kentucky.
That's what it was.
And then Kentucky goes to Georgia.
And loses by 13.
And loses by 13.
So it's hard to win on the road.
And like I said, there's no doubt in my mind that Auburn is significantly better than Texas. And they showed it, but they still had to hold off the Longhorns to win by 5 in Austin.
Which is what makes the win on Saturday that more impressive. Because, look, I know blowouts happen. I get that. But basketball not only is it a game of runs, 20-point leads they evaporate often in basketball. They do. And I think Auburn was up by like 24, 26 points, something like that. And Texas made it a game.
Yeah. Texas is, they're having some trouble right now. I actually think they're probably, I know I'm probably not supposed to say that. I think they're probably better than their record indicates.
Yeah. Well, also a
Like
tough
you
start
said,
to their season, too.
And again, the talent, maybe they're just not all on the same page yet. But you see good players.
You see really good players. And this is what worries me about Oklahoma. All the scouting reports say they play basketball the way Texas does. High, up-tempo, fast, transition, shoot threes. And look, I think one thing I can tell you about A&M is they'll figure it out in the second half. They'll take out, especially if you're a young, point guard that averages 20 plus a game or 16 plus a game, they'll figure out a way for you to they'll neutralize your game.
Well, they've seen a lot of opponents that play similarly to Oklahoma, right? So they'll be prepared for it. Now, are they going to execute it as well as they did, especially in the second half against Texas? Probably not,
right?
Because that was like on another level. But because of the way they play defense, I'll feel that A&M, they'll go into every game with a better than average chance of winning it, save for maybe one on the road or a couple on the road at Kentucky or wherever, right? Alabama, if they're on the road there, it might be dicey, but
That's all right. We'll make it work.
But can you still hear me?
I think so. Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
But again, going up there and playing without Wade, it's going to be a tough game. No, you can't hear me, Aaron.
No, they can hear you.
Oh.
You just can't hear them. All right, let's do this. Let's tell the people what the name of the show is, because I always forget, OB. I don't even know the name of this show. Sometimes I wonder, like, is it what? Is
TexAgs Live.
Oh, it's not Home Improvement Show.
No.
Okay. You know who we're represented by?
David Gardner's.
Yeah.
David Gardner's Jewelers, the gem of a guy.
Yeah, I love that place. And currently, this room is really more like a studio. It's called the what?
Yeah, it's the Rollo Insurance Studio.
That's right. And this particular area, we have a section, right?
Yes.
This is like...
this is the cool zone.
Oh, there it is. The Holistic Planning Cool Zone. And we know that the people at Holistic Planning like to help you out with many things.
Many things. Investments, taxes. They're coming up real soon.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be taking... And estate planning. But going back to investments, they can help you invest in pro sport.
I know you really want to buy an international soccer team, and we can help you out with that with Holistic Planning. So just go to investinprosports.com.
Barcelona.
Okay, see, that's where our friendship ends. All right, if you want to be part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us, you can text us. The phone number to call us is on the Boss Firearms Hotline, 979-693-1150. You can text that same number as well. We go around the room. We go behind the glass. We say hi to the Nick Savage. Nick, good morning.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How are you?
I'm good. Well, David, do you remember what we talked about yesterday in our brief? We had an open segment. We kind of went back and forth on our topic of who do we think is going to be the most important player this season.
Yes.
Remember that? Remember how we said the obvious answer was Wade Taylor, but me and you both agreed it's probably, or not probably, it could be Pharrell Payne.
1B is what Pharrell Payne.
And Cade Bickham back there always is on the side of Solomon Washington. So that's going to be tested tonight, right, with Wade out. So we'll see how that plays out.
Let's see how OB feels about it. So, look, they're all important on this team, right? Mm-hmm. It's a musical chairs of importance. But who is the most important player to this year's team not named Wade Taylor?
Well, tonight I would say it's Zurich Phelps.
Yeah.
Maybe it changes when Wade's on the court. Mm-hmm. But tonight, I just feel like Zurich's going to have a bigger load to carry.
Yeah.
And he is the number 2 scorer. And he had 18 points against Texas. And it looks like, it's taking him some time.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier this year that he was hurt or he was out for the first game. But he was hurt before that. So while they were practicing and getting acclimated with the system, he was there watching and trying to learn, but he wasn't actually involved. And, he had some turnover issues and things like that early. And I think I just get the feeling that it's all coming together for him.
I agree.
And so, right now, especially with Wade not on the court, I would say Zurich Phelps.
For long term, who would be your person outside of Wade? Long term, for this team to have success and go deep in the tournament.
Yeah, I could see Pharrell Payne being because he gives you that inside scoring, that rim protection on defense, another rebounder, even though hadn't been a great rebounder, he's another rebounder.
Yep.
He can protect the rim on defense, and he can give you an inside scoring option that, quite frankly, you hadn't had typically.
All right, let's find out what the people think. 979-693-1150. We go to the Angry Elephant News. And I don't know why I'm doing that like announcer man voice. Answer. Yeah, let's go to the Angry Elephant. Sorry. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News.
Just when you thought it was safe.
Oh, yeah, that's
go to the Angry Elephant.
Is that another movie reference?
Jaws 2. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the
Have you
water.
watched any of the Jaws?
No. I do love sharks, though. I like
you like
Shark
Great Whites?
Week. What?
Great Whites?
I mean, I just watched Shark Week.
Okay.
I'm like pretty locked into that.
You're locked into Shark Week. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what you're supposed to do against a shark?
Punch it in the nose.
There you go. So next time you go swimming deep in the ocean, punch it in the nose.
Yeah.
No.
It's on my plan.
It's pretty much
Watch Jaws. You might not like the sharks anymore.
Well, I'm not like friends with them.
You don't want them as a pet.
No, I just think they're interesting.
Okay.
What do you have for us, Calita?
Okay. All 38 Texas A&M defensive linemen have accepted their invitations to the Reese's Senior Bowl. Nick Scorton, Shamar Turner, and Shamar Stewart will play in the Senior Bowl on Saturday, February 1st at 1:30 in Mobile, Alabama, before they start their draft preparation. So excited to see them participate in that. And then 3 Texas A&M baseball players were named to the preseason All-American list by Perfect Game. Outfielder Jace Lavalette and left-handed pitcher Ryan Prager were named to the first team, and infielder Gavin Grahovac earned a spot on the third team. And their 3 All-American selections were tied for the most in the country with Arkansas and Oregon State. Also, with Wade Taylor, he was named to the 2024-25 midseason top 25 watch list for the John R. Wooden Award, and he is one of 7 power conference guards averaging 15-plus points per game, while also having more than 60 assists and fewer than 30 turnovers. Among the Power 5 players scoring 15 or more points per game, he ranks 9th nationally. So,
Calita, thank you very much. OB, I know you are Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball, but in your time here at TexAgs, is this the most anticipation for a baseball season you personally have had? Excitement level? I was pretty excited when Schloss started.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel like this one, we've been talking about it since the end.
Yeah, because not only are they, look, they've got the nucleus of the team that was a runaway from winning the national championship coming back. They're ranked number 1. And that turncoat is in Austin. And so you want to stick it to him. You hope, Michael Early comes out and turns out to be, a better coach like Tom Osborne replacing Bob Devaney at Nebraska.
Right.
You went from good to great. So,
and you know what? I'll even take Barry Switzer year 2 with the Cowboys. I'll even take that. Let's just win.
Yeah. Okay.
No, just saying, let's just win. I don't want long-term Barry Switzer.
I don't want, absolutely. No, you don't want that.
You definitely don't want Mike McCarthy.
No, I don't.
Well, I'm sure we'll bring that up with Charean Williams here in a little bit. Thank you, Calita. Hey, did you say Texas was ranked in the top 10 in that poll? Isn't that what you told me?
Yesterday, they're 7th in the baseball.
Huh.
But that's perfect game. So I don't know what D1 baseball is going to, I'm sure they'll be up there.
I'll give Schloss this. He will coach that team up, regardless of where they are. He'll coach them up. But A&M is...
Can only do so much, though.
That's true. Why did people say, oh?
I don't think that was...
I don't even think that was... Was that controversial? Let's move on.
I'm finally at 63 maturing because I had a line, and I thought, you know what? That's probably even too tasteless for me. So
wow.
Wow.
Anyway, tonight's game, OB.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna make a suggestion for you, okay? I'm gonna suggest you go to prizepicks.com/TexAgs.
Okay.
I want you to sign up, all right?
I've already done that.
Okay, use the password TexAgs, right?
Yeah.
$50 once you play $5 lineups. And then I want you to look at some of the players available today in the A&M game and do the more than the less than game. I don't know the number. Usually I have Matthew Dawson giving me some information, but he's, taking a 3-month vacation. If they said, I don't know, let's think, Zurich Phelps, more than or less than 16 points, what do you say?
I would say more than, because you need him to produce more tonight.
Okay.
I'd say more than.
Pharrell Payne, 12 and 8. You go more than or less than? You can do either one. You can do both. I'm sorry. More than points?
I think I'd say, I'd go points before I'd go rebounds.
Yeah.
So I'd say, I think I'd say more than. Again, that 15.7 or whatever that Wade is averaging.
Got to go somewhere.
It's going to be, you got to compensate somewhere else.
So if you got those right, 2 to 6 player stat projections, watch the winnings roll.
I need some winnings to roll.
Yeah, you do. PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs. Get those $50 once you play in $5 lineups. It's PrizePicks.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. David and OB here on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. Let's go talk to Charean Williams.
Let's do. It's always a good time to talk to Charean.
Pro Football Talk and Hall of Famer and our good friend, Aggie Great. Charean, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
We're good. We got some NFL to talk about, some college football playoffs, and how about that Aggie basketball team?
And Charean, I'm not doing that well.
Oh.
Because of some news last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you know the news. But we want to talk about A&M basketball first.
Is the news what I asked you about earlier? Or is it something else?
About McCarthy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
that's what I figured.
I'm in a state of depression.
So he's officially staying?
Well, why would you not? Why would you tell the Bears they couldn't interview him if you were going to keep him? So it's going to be another crappy year next year.
Yeah, well, the Bears requested to talk to Mike McCarthy, and the Cowboys have exclusivity. His contract actually runs out today, Mike McCarthy's, but they have exclusive negotiating rights until January 14th. So at that point, he becomes a free agent. So the Cowboys obviously are negotiating, plan to negotiate. To me, it's the length of the contract that's probably going to be the hang-up more than anything, because I am certain Jerry wants a short-term contract. He prefers 1 year, but Mike McCarthy's not signing a 1 year contract. Can he get him to do a 2 year? Probably not. Would Jerry agree to a 3 year? To me, that's where I think it's going to get hung up, is how many years is McCarthy going to want and how many years is Jerry going to be willing to give? And I don't know if they come to an agreement there, but I don't know that they've even talked at this point. But it's just very strange, obviously, that they don't let him go talk to the Bears. I understand they have this exclusive period, but if they're not going to re-sign him, and then they decide that, and then he hasn't gotten a chance to go interview with the Bears, I just think that's wrong. I think everybody would think that was wrong.
Talking to Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Charean, so the Patriots moved on from Mayo rather quickly. Are they going to go the Mike Vrabel department direction, I should say?
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, that they made a quick move to fire, and they quote-unquote complied with the Rooney Rule. They had 2 minority candidates come in for interviews. Neither one was a serious candidate. So that's what everybody has a problem with, is they throw the Rooney Rule back in the face of the people who established the Rooney Rule and expect you to follow the Rooney Rule. And they did do that. There's no question they followed the Rooney Rule to the letter of the law, but those guys weren't serious candidates. They knew all along who they were going to hire. I expect that to be the hire. I expect it to be announced pretty quickly. And yeah, if Vrabel would have been a candidate in a lot of places, I think the Raiders probably wanted him with Tom Brady. I think that was clear. I think the Cowboys, if they do move on from Mike McCarthy, would have wanted him, but he's going to end up in New England. I don't think there's any question about that.
All right. So you wanted to talk about A&M basketball.
Why not?
Charean, Wade Taylor's not playing tonight. How do you feel about the Aggies' chances up in Norman?
Well, I listened to Buzz, the thing A&M basketball put out about, their parts being better together than they are as individuals, and I think that's exactly right. I give them a chance. You'd certainly rather have Wade Taylor on your team, but I didn't think he played that great, and obviously he was banged up, got banged up in the first half of that game, and didn't look like himself really the whole entire way, and I didn't think he played that great, and they still were obviously able to win in the second half, pull away from Texas. So I certainly give them a chance. I think they're really good together as a team. I think they define team. I think they're fun to watch. I enjoy watching them play. So I give him a chance, but it is going to be harder without Wade Taylor. We all know what he means and how good he is.
Yeah, but the interesting part is, some of the parts that Buzz is talking about, these guys have really, the newest additions fit in so nicely, and we were talking about Pharrell Payne a moment ago, just the rim presence that he brings, his back to the basket, the ability to finish above the rim. He brings some like a paint toughness they haven't had here in some time.
Yeah, and I'll compare this to the year that we were so excited that the football team had the number 1 recruiting class in the country, and they said it's the best recruiting class ever in history. And how did that turn out? not very good, because you'll have to consider how those parts fit into your team, the character of those kids, how hard they're going to work, or their work habits, all those things. You have to consider all those things. So just because a player is a 5-star doesn't mean that he's going to be a star in the college ranks. We've seen it. We see it repeatedly over and over and over again. And I think that's what's changed with, I know I'm switching gears here, but that's what's changed with the football team, I think, is they are considering all those things, work habits, and how hard are you going to practice, and how much you're going to be there. You're going to be on time for meetings. What's your character? And all those things matter. And I think that's the way Buzz is recruited, and that's the type of team he has. All those guys care about each other. They don't care about their individual stats or anything else. Yes, they want to have good individual stats, but mostly they care about winning. You can tell that. You can tell how excited they are when one of their teammates does something good. Hefner missed the 3 and then went in for the rebound the other night. All those things, I think, excite them as much as it does for them scoring a basket of their own. And so I just like the way he's recruited and the type of team that he has. It's a fun team to root for. You don't feel like there's a bad guy on that team.
There's not.
That they're together, they're brothers. It's just fun.
Yeah. Hey, Charean, you still want to talk more basketball?
No, we need to move to Aggies.
I was going to ask you if anybody had a better weekend, any Aggie had a better weekend than Mike Evans.
There you go.
Yeah, no. I didn't write anything down, so I'm kind of doing this off the top of my head. But, I mean, number one is going to be Mike Evans. There's no question about that with what he did and getting his 1,000 yards. That was replayed over and over and over again. And kudos to the Buccaneers, who really took a chance. They had the game wrapped up. Normally you take a knee in that situation. They threw Mike Evans the pass to get him his 5. He ended up getting 7 yards, I think, for the 5 that he needed. To pass 1,000 yards and get his $3 million bonus and keep his streak alive. He tied Jerry Rice to the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. And he has the record from the start as a rookie to start your career with 11. But Jerry Rice had 11 at one point in his career. It wasn't from the start of his season because he had an ACL injury in there. But just what he's done, I think, is just significant, and how the Bucs did it was great. And I think everybody enjoyed watching that. And I hope they save the ball for him. He spiked the ball, and I was trying to look to see if anybody went and picked up the ball, and they cut away. You couldn't tell. So I hope somebody picked up the ball for him, and he has that ball that gave him 1,000 yards. So terrific performance by him, obviously. So we're kind of doing season here. You can't. You have to mention Myles Garrett again, a candidate for defensive player of the year. I can't say who I voted for. Ballots went in yesterday, but he's high on my ballot. Let's just say that, because he had, again, one of the best defensive years that any defensive player had in the NFL this year. Just outstanding. I think he had the most double teams in the NFL this season that he faced, and still was managed to do what he did. Von Miller got his $1.5 million bonus with the sack on Sunday, played much better than he did last year, more than a year away from that surgery. And now he gets to face the Broncos in the playoff. That's going to be exciting, I know, for him to go back and face his teammates and favored and all of those things. So that'll be exciting for him. Devon Achane, Chris Grier, the general manager of the Dolphins, yesterday went off on why they couldn't vote Achane to the Pro Bowl, and I'd have to agree with that. He had a great year and was deserving of a Pro Bowl. He proved to the NFL, all the scouts said, well, he can't be an every down back. We saw that in the LSU game. We all knew that, and the NFL found that out, and he should have been in the Pro Bowl. So I think those are your top Aggies of the week, and just some outstanding performances all around. It was a good week for the Aggies and a good season for a lot of Aggies.
Charean, great stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk here on TexAgs Live. All right, OB. Let's not invite anybody to lunch, all right? Let's just have a buddy talk. Yeah, we'll just go, you and I, to 1775 and chat.
I was going to say, not today.
Well, we can't today.
Yeah, because I hope tomorrow we can invite everybody.
Is it going to be frozen tomorrow? Who knows?
I'm sure the food's still going to be there.
The food's going to be great.
I mean, in fact, I don't care if it was a sheet of ice. It's worth the trip, the slip,
Yep.
the whatever it is you have to do to get there, it's worth it to get to 1775.
So if I said OB,
and the best part, if it was just me and you,
Yeah.
is I wouldn't have to share so much.
if I said this to you, all right, tomorrow, sheets of ice everywhere,
of ice.
all right, cold.
Cold.
You've got to walk from TexAgs to 1775 shirtless in that weather, but you get unlimited queso mac and cheese, unlimited whatever meat you want, and unlimited anything at 1775. Are you in?
How far is that? Shirtless?
Shirtless. In the cold. But unlimited. I'm testing your love for 1775. I want to know. Katie will be out there, social media following you.
Unlimited for how long?
Just like Forrest Gump. You'll be Olin Gump.
I got enough fat on me to shield, I got enough fat to
feel good.
Well, I don't know, bear.
Yeah.
A bear comes out of hibernation, eats up, gets all fat, he can handle the winter.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going.
I got enough fat to handle the winter.
Okay. I wasn't thinking that at all. I think you're, very in shape.
Yeah, round is a shape.
Well, that's enough on this. 1775, open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. 979-492-6241 or go to 1775txbbq.com. Began a long time ago. The vision of Billy Liucci coming up with
probably about 50 years ago.
More like 26.
Oh, I
something
thought
like that?
just.
Oh, about him being. I was talking about TexAgs and Maroon and White and all that stuff.
That Billy started like 50 years ago.
Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline and talk to the executive editor and co-owner of TexAgs and our dear friend. Hi, welcome to TexAgs. Billy, how are you, sir?
I'm good, but I mean, I guess if I'm going to be greeted in the go hour, it's got to be weird, or I'm not really being greeted in the go hour.
I don't understand.
I don't. What?
Because we're weird. He thinks we're weird in the go hour.
What was
I
weird?
don't know. You guys sound like really robotic here. I can't really hear you.
No.
Oh, well, that's because we have issues with the phone lines. Billy, I guess it's not a surprise. We were hoping for a different outcome, but Noah Thomas decides to transfer to Georgia, and social media went a little crazy on it. Just your thoughts on losing a guy like Noah and what A&M does next?
Well, in fairness, I didn't see a ton of the social media. I saw a little bit. I wouldn't say from what I saw anyway. So if there was something truly crazy, I'm not signing off on it. But look, if the reaction is people being disappointed, obviously with large numbers of people, somebody or some people are always going to kind of cross the line. I do think sometimes, and I saw Noah reply to the video of them coming out about the jersey, if you're not in my jersey. And I don't think it's reasonable for athletes in 2024 getting paid what they do, moving to other places, and not that that's the only motivation, but factually to go somewhere else in a lot of instances get paid more, and expect no criticism, no one to publicly disagree with the decision, and as long as you're okay with that, then there is a line that people can cross that goes too far. But as long as you understand, like, that's not going to be popular, a good part of that fan base is not going to have any love for you anymore. And the reality is that player, in this instance it's Noah to Georgia, you'd have to have a sit-down long conversation to convince anybody that you've got any love for this program anymore, this place. And I know everybody that leaves says they love it, but to me, I understand, like, hey, you're going to lose fans. You're going to lose your tie to A&M. You're a starting player. Despite what you're bringing in the portal, you have a chance to be wide receiver one. And you didn't show a lot of faith, I don't think, in your head coach, your OC, your quarterback, your teammates, and whatever. And you went to Georgia. That's the reality. And here's the other reality. That's his prerogative. It might pay off for his career. He's got one football career, and it either ends in a year or it goes on to the NFL, and you get paid a lot of money for a long time to play. So you understand that part as well. With that said, I think it's different. I know it's different all the time. I look at another receiver that left, and Aggie fans are, hey, good luck to, like a Chase Lane. You look at a guy like, I'm just picking random names out here, like Gabe Brownlow-Dindy going to South Carolina. He wasn't getting his opportunity to play at A&M. You look at a Haynes King. Like, these are all different for different reasons. So I think as long as people keep it respectful, sure, if you're disappointed and you feel like saying it, say it. It's not. It's just about being respectful, though, because it is someone that they're making a decision for their life, and you don't have to agree with it. From a football standpoint, I'm looking at every program in the country, and I'm looking at Georgia, and I'm looking at their quarterback situation, and I'm looking at their offense historically under Kirby. I'm looking at how the UGA fans feel about Bobo up there as the OC. And it's a little head scratcher, and you wonder what James Coley sold, because Coley was here for 2 years. And what did they do offensively during that stretch? What did the receivers do? So it's a head scratcher from that standpoint. But, from a football standpoint, I'm looking at this team now, and I think if you're saying that, if you've convinced yourself now that Noah was not a big loss, you've managed to very quickly fool yourself. I think that position I think it will be. I don't think it can be. I think it will be better in 2025 than it was in 24. I think it'll be noticeably better. But Noah Thomas would have made it that much better. Noah, and it would have given you that much more confidence that it was going to be better, because he was going to be kind of the anchor of it as your veteran receiver. The guy had 8 touchdowns this year. Look, if Concepcion or Hudson or Craver or Bussey or any of these guys would have passed him, even if a couple of them would have, he still makes your receiving core and your team better. So, and then there's the possibility of Noah, having his best year in Aggieland as a senior and really building on what I thought outside of that infamous play against USC was a strong finish to his year. So it's a loss, but it's also, look, Mike Elko and his staff attacked the portal the way they did at the position, knowing that Noah was unsteady, that he might leave. And I know that for a fact. He was the guy I'd been talking about. Listeners know, I kept saying there's one starter who could be, who was on the fence, who was shaky, who I was worried about. And Noah was the one. Noah was that guy. They've known that the whole time, and they did recruit the position accordingly. And now I don't know if Thomas thought that the portal numbers at the position, if they're going to use that as part of the thing for leaving, but that's a little misleading, because I think part of it had to do with they knew that he was far from a sure thing. And imagine had they not gotten Concepcion and lost Noah. It does make the Nick Anderson one sting a little bit more from the standpoint of a big big, tall outside receiver. I think Anderson's physical, but it does make that hit a little differently. But thank goodness they added that third portal receiver and a guy as productive as Casey Concepcion, because Noah was productive, and Noah would have been productive this coming season as well. So that's where I'm at with it from a football standpoint.
Yeah, Bill, you mentioned when you were talking about all the guys that were still here or that are going to be here to play receiver, you mentioned Bussey. So you think that answers the question of what Bussey's future is? He'll always be a receiver? He's going to stay a receiver?
No, I don't think so, B. I don't think so. Number one, don't forget you've got a defensive head coach, first of all. Never forget that. That's like with R.C. Slocum, it'd have to be where we really need him at receiver for R.C. to have a look at a potential stud corner and then turn the other way. And I think Elko was pretty similar to that. With that said, I don't think that's something that's going to be decided immediately. And it'll depend. I think it'll depend on how those portal guys fare. What do you get out of Ashton Bethel-Roman moving forward? And do they add another portal receiver either from one of these schools that recently got done playing or still playing, or in the spring portal window? I could see them adding one more from the standpoint of needing depth at this point, and maybe some guy that's played some real college football and made some catches. Now, if they could go out and get a great one, even better. I don't know that that'll be out there, or that if the Aggies can get him, but I think they'll try to add one more. At some point along the way, I think you'll see them try to add one more true outside receiver with some height and some size to him, if that guy's available, and they'll be looking. So, again, I think the Bussey thing will depend on what the position looks like, what Bussey looks like. I still think Bussey's fascinating because You could look up, it could be like him and Will Lee, and Terry could be an absolute lockdown corner. It could be, you've got a lot of guys at corner right now. Humphrey, Lee, you've got Chappelle coming back, you've got Ricks coming back, you potentially Bussy, you've got the true freshman coming in, you got Javon Thomas coming back, who's quietly played a significant amount of football. So it'll be interesting because I also think you can use Terry a lot more than you did this year. And obviously, as he develops as a true receiver, but just getting him the football in a million different ways. I always think of Ramont Taylor at Texas and how they used him. People always like to say that, they use the NFL example, and they say things like Percy Harvin, and nowadays like a Debo Samuel, or more recently at A&M and Anais Smith. But I think that potential makes it a little harder to move him off offense as well. So TBD there. Look, we're done with the portal, right, for A&M in terms of players going out. That window is closed. Guys can leave after the spring, in the spring portal period, but they also can't play in the SEC. So that's a real hindrance for a lot of these guys, at least the good ones anyway. So now, with that portal window going out closed, and I think there might be a couple guys out there that haven't picked a school yet, but they're not guys A&M's trying to get back. So with that said, with Noah choosing Georgia, you went through the portal after year one, and you lost one starter. And, you lost a few guys that would have played, some depth guys, but not many. But you lost one starter in the portal, and I don't think really anyone else that I would refer to, correct me if I'm wrong, as an impact, an expected impact guy next year. I mean, depth on the O-line is impact, and I think you did lose some of that on the interior with
Shanahan.
With Dewberry and Shanahan.
Yeah.
But for what you would have had to have done to keep them, no, that's better utilized elsewhere. So I think they had a really successful portal season when you look at coming in versus going out. And the biggest thing is what went out. And they lost, and it's unfortunate that Noah left. They certainly tried to keep him. They wanted to keep him. You went to another SEC school on top of that. So, yeah, that's it, though, man. And I think if you're a football team in 2024, you feel pretty good about only losing one guy that was truly expected to be impactful.
Billy, got to drop it there, man. Thank you very much. We'll catch up with you on Friday.
All right, noon.
Later. All right, we got to hit a break because we're an hour late. TexAgs. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Longest break of our show's tenure since I've been here. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline, talk to the professor, footballtakeover.com founder, and, of course, Houston Texan sideline reporter, my friend, John Harris. Johnny, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, David? I would like to use Staying Alive as my new walk-up music. If I was playing in Major League Baseball, it'd be playing third base from Houston, Texas. John Harris, but Staying Alive would be my walk-up music. I like that. I like that walk-up music forever.
Well, hopefully the Texans stay alive this weekend as I segue to that. And by the way, you do remind me of a young John Travolta, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, the resemblance is uncanny, and if you can't see it, well, then you're the blind one.
Serious question for you. When's the last time you went dancing?
I think it starts with N and ends in ever. So I think never. I can't remember a time where, my wife and I are not, she's not, that's not her thing. It's not my thing. So we have not gone to, honky tonk joint in Nashville or College Station to go, two-step thing. So I can't remember the last time I ever danced where I had anybody watch it, if that makes any sense. So I would dance around the house, probably a lot. But dancing is not part of the Harris resume or CV, if you will.
John, here's a serious question here. Do dudes dance that are not inebriated? Like does Nick Savage dance just because he likes to dance? Like, does that happen? Like, I don't know. I'm meaning that with a lot of, I haven't danced, I think, since 2003. All right. And that was a wedding dance. I don't, do guys dance if they're not drinking?
I mean, if they do it for a living, there's some dudes that do it for a living. They're really good at it. But, I mean, other than that, I guess part of it is because we can't dance. We don't want anybody to see it unless we're, fully,
yep.
All right, I'll be fully embarrassed. I'm fine. Or you're imbibing and you just don't give a damn. And you're just like, I don't care. I can stick Steiner box in and, I feel good. So, throw on some, Journey and I'll rock out. I don't know. So I think unless you're just a really good dancer by trade, other than that, it's probably going to take you a six-pack to get rolling for sure.
3 minutes in, we haven't talked football. I got to get to the NFL in a moment, but first let's start off with the college football playoffs. Maybe start off with Notre Dame, Penn State. How do you think this one's going to play out?
Well, I've said all along, I thought Penn State is fugazi. I just did not believe in Penn State at all. And I know everybody, they got to this point. Yeah, they beat SMU at home, and SMU turned the ball over 80 times. And then they played Boise State, and Boise State kept stepping all over themselves. Boise State didn't make so many damn mistakes in the game. Who knows how that one goes? So Penn State has gotten as, I would say, lucky. It's been a fortunate bracket for them. And I think Notre Dame has played very well. I mean, Indiana is not a great football team, but, they had to beat Georgia. And Texas tried twice and could beat Georgia. I know, Carson Beck. No, listen, Carson Beck was not the issue for Georgia. Gunnar Stockton, I thought, did a nice job for the most part, but receivers dropped balls. Georgia didn't play clean. But Notre Dame just outcoached Georgia in every way, shape, or form. And there are only a couple of coaches, I think, active that have national championships on the resume. And Kirby Smart is one of them. And Marcus Freeman coached rings around him. It wasn't even close. He just coached his butt off. So I feel like Notre Dame has got a distinct advantage from a coaching leadership. Al Golden, defensive coordinator. Mike Denbrock, offensive coordinator. Boy, they're really talented in that coaching staff. So I think that gives Notre Dame a little bit of an edge in my mind. But I think what eventually has to catch up to Notre Dame is the fact that Benjamin Morrison and Riley Mills, their top two defensive players, are not going to play in this game. And at some point, that's got to catch up to them. It didn't last week against Georgia, but I think Penn State's got a few more offensive weapons that it might be able to expose Notre Dame. And I think in the end, I'm going to pick Notre Dame, or I'm going to pick Penn State, just because I think now Abdul Carter is a big key. Whether he's ready to go or not, that's a big one. If he's not, well, I might lean Notre Dame, but he's enough to kind of tip it the other way for Penn State. So I'm going to go with Penn State in that one. In Texas and Ohio State, Texas is just doing enough to get by. And where that hurts you is, well, we'll just turn up the volume when we get to Ohio State. You can't do that. You can't be playing up and down football and then decide against, right now, the best team in the country. Oh, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll just turn it up. Like, no, that doesn't happen. Ohio State is on some kind of roll. They realize they have the best player in America, really, in Jeremiah Smith, and they're deciding to throw the ball to him finally more than just a few times a game. And they've found what they should have been during the regular season. Now, that's a team with all that talent that can turn the volume up when it wants. And during the regular season, it didn't even have it up. Now, all of a sudden, it got to the Rose Bowl and said, yeah, or Tennessee game, said, yeah, watch us. And then Oregon, it was like, Oregon is a fast football team. They looked like they were playing in mud against Ohio State. So I think Ohio State, now, the weather and how that game, goes to get moved back a day or all that kind of stuff, that could play a role in just continuity and rhythm. But I just think Texas can't play that up and down game and beat Ohio State. It has to be up and stay up, and it hasn't done that all year. There hasn't been a game where Texas has been, yeah, let's take it up to volume 10 and leave it. They've been 3, 7, 8, 2, 5. Like, they're all over the place. Ohio State has finally just consistently got it up to 9, 9.5 every time out, and I don't think Texas can beat Ohio State at its even 90% bet.
Johnny, there's certain characters in sports that I like, their personalities. You know this about me with Draymond Green. I like him. Most people hate him, but there's certain things he does that bugs me. Rex Ryan, another one of those personalities that I've always liked, but sometimes he becomes a caricature of himself. What was your take of him calling this Texans game a bye week for the Chargers?
Yeah. I mean, look, Rex has always said things for effect. So he says this, and, he knows in the city in which he says it, and whether it's Houston or whether he says it about the Commanders or he says it about the Vikings or whatever, he's going to rile people up. And I think one of the reasons that it happens that way, he's a former NFL coach. He must know what he's talking about. Man, I'm telling you, former NFL people that get into media, they don't watch diddly squat. They watch the highlights. They watch YouTube shorts. They get stuff from their assistants, and that's what they go with. I guarantee you Rex Ryan hasn't watched a full game of the Texans all year long. I mean, I guarantee it. So that's fine. We'll find out on Saturday. He'll find out on Saturday. And look, the Texans can't go out there and lay an egg and make that guy look like a soothsayer. They can't. Well, I told you, look, bye week. Chargers went out there and won 35, 10. That can't happen. And I don't think it will. I think the Texans, even without Tank and without Steph, I think they can move the ball. I like the Chargers defense, but it's not the best one we've seen. And even last week, when the top 5 defenses, we went right down the field and scored early. And I think we would have done that a lot of the day because we looked dialed in, and that's the key. We have to be dialed in this game. And if we are, Rex Ryan will look like a butthead. I almost said a bad word. But if we don't, then the Chargers are going to walk in there, a good, solid football team, but not spectacular, not the Ravens, not as of yet. But we got to play really good football. Hopefully we're rested. Guys got a chance to play, a quarter or a half, after about 10 days off after the Ravens game on Christmas. So, came out there with some, with a little fire against the Titans. And now you're playing a playoff game at home. And, there's a part of me that's glad it's not the Steelers because the Steelers have dominated the crowd. I don't think the Chargers fans will dominate the crowd. There'll be a few. But the fans got to bring the energy. Guys got to bring the energy. If we do, and we play clean, then we'll walk out of there with a W, and Rex Ryan looks like an idiot.
Johnny, what about this Texans defense? What are they, number 6 in pass defense against a Chargers offense that likes to get the ball to a young man, Ladd McConkey, that we've seen many times at Georgia? What a really nice season for him.
Yeah, I mean, what's coincided with Ladd playing well is Quentin Johnston starting to catch the football. And Darius Davis, another TCU guy, being their downfield threat. I mean, when they drafted McConkey, I would say I was despondent, but I was not happy because I wanted Ladd to come to Houston. But I also knew we got Steph Diggs and, okay, we've got our 3. But Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Darius Davis, Quentin Johnson, that's a good group. So the question becomes, to slow them down, one of the bullets in the holster has been Derek Stingley Jr. being able to go on wide receiver number 1. And you think that's Ladd McConkey. But the way the Chargers use Ladd, I don't know if that's the wise thing to do. I think maybe you put Stingley on Johnson and go big on big, as big a corner as you're going to find on Johnson. And then maybe you just play man and a half or 2 guys on Ladd and let Sting take out Johnson and then double McConkey and then see where Justin Herbert wants to go with the ball at that point. So I think D'Amico Ryans has got a few cards up his sleeve when he's had time to prepare. And I think he'll have definite time to prepare for this one. But, pass rush is key. He said it yesterday at his press conference. He said the key to the game is the Texans defensive line against the Chargers offensive line. And Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater from Clemens High School going against Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, and the pass rushers. These pass rushers have got to win and win often. They've got to move Herbert off the spot. That'll help the secondary, but the secondary can help that pass rush too. So, it works together. And the best games that we have played, it has been magical, really, to watch the rush and the coverage work together. And that's really, it doesn't, they talk about it all the time, but it doesn't really happen a lot. But our guys have really kind of put that together with sticky coverage at times when they need it, and that allows Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter to get to the quarterback and get pressures, and then pressures turn into turnovers, and that's one thing Herbert doesn't do. So that's one thing, if you can shake him up early with a sack or maybe make him get a bad throw and a turnover, well, that's playing right into your hands for the rest of the game.
John, I was looking up Myles Garrett's stats, and obviously on his way to a Hall of Fame campaign. He's only 12 sacks away from J.J. Watt. He's 29 years old, and he's had double-digit sacks every year but his rookie year, and that started in 2017. Just talk a little bit about him, because, we have seen some of the best edge players here, even TJ. TJ's close to catching JJ here soon.
Yeah, the AFC has some incredible edge rushers. The guy that leads the league in sacks isn't even in the playoffs, Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. He's incredible. Then you got Max Crosby who didn't play the full year. And then there's Miles, there's TJ. Then there's Daniil, and there's Will. It's like, holy. And then, the Chargers, who we're going to see this week, it's Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Now, a little bit longer in the tooth, but still, we can create a lot of havoc off the edge. Nick Bonito with the Broncos. It's like every good team in the, the Bills, got a few, with, Vaughn being one of them now healthy. So it's like every team in the AFC has just got dudes. I hate the fact that Myles Garrett has to play for the Browns. And I know what the Browns did last year. It was incredible with Joe Flacco, and they get to the playoffs, and then obviously we just put one on them in the playoff game. But Myles is just, I don't know, he hasn't toiled in anonymity. It hasn't been that. But he's played in Cleveland. And knowing Myles, he's respected every single minute that he's played in Cleveland. It's like, that man should have been asking to get out of there 5 years ago. But he has stayed loyal to Cleveland. He has become a Hall of Famer in Cleveland. And I think he's done one thing even more amazing, is he's lived up to being a number 1 overall pick. And that is probably the hardest of anything. Because when Myles got to Cleveland, and he was having really good years even early on, fans were like, no, don't give him a second contract. No. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's one of the better young rushers in the league, one of the better rushers we've ever seen. What are y'all talking about? No. He should have like 35 sacks. Like, he's a number 1 overall pick. Like, that's the expectation. He's exceeded that. And I think that's incredible, honestly. And it's just amazing to see the talent that's come out of A&M that's lived up to expectation. What Mike has done, down in Tampa, what Myles was done in Cleveland. Quite honestly, being an AFC team, I'd like for Myles to just go to the Cowboys. Like, Myles, just go to Dallas and go team with Micah Parsons and get out of the AFC. Kind of tired of seeing him, even though I know the Browns had a tough year. That wasn't Myles' fault. That was somebody else's fault. A few other somebodies. but they shall remain nameless and may not play in 2025. But the Browns, it's just a shame that that organization has wasted such good Hall of Fame careers like Myles Garrett, like Joe Thomas. Those guys were the best in the trenches, maybe, ever at their position. And 3 wins a year, one playoff, appearance, every 5-7 years or whatever it is. And just a shame that Myles has had to go through that, because Myles is everything you want in an NFL player, everything you want in a representative of an organization. And it's just a shame that the people in Cleveland, who I feel sorry for, Myles has had to put up with all that Deshaun Watson nonsense and deal with that and all the quarterback nonsense there, because he should be playing for a playoff team. He should be a Super Bowl winner. And then people would truly, truly give him the respect he deserves.
Johnny, I don't like bringing it up, but I do. It's like one of those Nuño-isms. I don't, but I do. Deshaun Watson, you kind of alluded to it a moment ago. First off, do we ever see him play in the NFL again? And second, how can a guy who had the world at his hand, right? Like early Deshaun, Clemson Deshaun, first couple years Texans Deshaun, seem like the best dude. And I don't know if he changed or if this is who he always was, but not the best dude.
No, because I think, and this is the hardest part, we talk all about NFL scouting and, oh, this guy's got good hips and this guy's long and, no, this guy played well against Alabama and all that. What it comes down to, in all honesty, is if a guy is physically talented, what drives him? Is he motivated to be great? And are you motivated to be great for the right reason? The reason for Deshaun was always the money. We had, back when he was at the Pro Bowl, back in, I can't remember what it was. It was right after COVID or during COVID, and there was talk about his extension, like his first extension with the Texans. And Derrick Henry asked him, what are you going to get? What are you going to get? And Deshaun said, I'm going to wait for what Pat gets. Talking about Pat Mahomes. And it was like, okay, well then Mahomes gets half a billy, and it's like, Deshaun wants this. And, it was always about the money. And I think that's the shame of it, is that became more important than anything else. It became more important than his teammates. It became more important than winning. It became more important than playing ball. And, he gets on Instagram while the Browns are getting a what beat out of him by the Ravens, and he's talking about hashtag more glory 2025 wearing Balenciaga in a Lamborghini. Like, really? I mean, you got to read the room. Like, he just lost sight of what it was like to be a teammate, what it was like to be a leader, what it was like to be a positive beacon of light. And I know that, obviously all the off the field stuff was, whatever. Whatever people are into is whatever people are into, as long as it's, not, illegal by, legal standards. And, who knows? It's always he said, she said, so I don't know if that had an impact, because one of the things about that was he was then painted as a villain. And this from watching wrestling, David. There are baby faces and there are heels. And there are guys that are made to be heels. There are guys that are made to be baby faces. Deshaun was made to be a baby face and got turned into a heel, and he didn't know how to handle it. He did not know how to handle it. He wanted to be that servant leader. Well, that's what he talked about. But that's really what it became all about. And when he took a contract to go to Cleveland, it told you everything about Deshaun Watson that mattered to Deshaun Watson, because there's no way he's going to Cleveland unless he gets a guaranteed contract. And that's when I knew he was broken. That's when I knew, because he had opportunities to go to the Saints and Falcons and win more games and do more, but he wanted to have that contract of all guaranteed money. That's what he wanted. That's what he wanted all along. He wouldn't give up his no trade clause until there was a team that was going to do that. And he hadn't played for a year and a half. So it's just a shame that his priorities on being great changed. And they changed in a big, big way. And now I don't know I don't know how healthy he is physically. He hasn't been physically healthy since he set foot in the NFL. And I don't know that he'll ever get back. I do think he'll play again, like in a Week 17 or Week 18 game. It doesn't matter. But there's no team that is going to put that kind of money or even close for what he's given them. I mean, he basically became, his numbers are a backup quarterback that got in because the starter was injured and he's just muddling through, as opposed to the quarterback that got the first 100% guaranteed contract for $230 million. It's a shame, but it just goes to show a lot of guys have different priorities when they get into the league. And scouts and teams have got to figure out which guys are in it to go win and be great and which guys are in it to go get a dollar. And it's okay if you want to go get paid. That's cool. That's awesome. But the team's got to know that, and the team's got to understand that and not let a player like that. I know a few for the Texans that were drafted in later rounds, and I talked to the scouts, and they were like, yeah, he should have been a second rounder, but all he wants is the money. And that's why a guy goes in the fifth round. He goes, and then they got to play into the money. So, it's just tough that it's been handled that way, but I wish him luck. Just hope I never have to see him play football again.
Johnny, appreciate your time, buddy. Good luck this weekend, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, man. Love you, bro.
Love you, bro. That's my guy, John Harris. Dear friend for the last 20 years. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back, and we'll do an open segment. Then Tom Schuberth will be in studio. Then we'll get Bronny on a mobile, and then we'll get the Pounding the Rock segment with Luke and Tap. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. When you're looking for a new vehicle, it can be very stressful. I highly recommend you check out CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. You can get a kind of a feel for the vehicles that they have on the lot. They've got such a great selection there. And if you're looking for big, medium-duty trucks, those heavier jobs, that's the place to go for that. Locally owned and operated by Aggie alumni, complimentary pickup and delivery for service customers, and free oil changes for life on the life of your purchase as long as you own that vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're the premier dealer for commercial vehicles for all of your small business needs. Not a far drive. We're talking 15 minutes. The edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. Everyone, David Nuño here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season. Callie, who's singing?
Journey.
All right.
I love this song.
Main singer back then.
Oh. What does it start with?
S. S-N-O-O-P. I'm kidding. Steve Perry.
Steve Perry?
Yep. Nick knew that. Nick was ready. I saw his hand. Who's the new guy, Nick?
Filipino guy. I don't know. I don't know his name. But that's not wrong.
No, it's not. It's 1984 here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. Olin Buchanan, Savage. All right, let's get into a couple text messages, shall we? But before we do that, Callie, we usually have Coach Henry right around now. He might join us tomorrow. He had to push back his schedule, but we've got an update on some track and field stuff.
Yes, Texas A&M is hosting the 2025 McFerrin 12-degree Invitational this weekend on Friday. There are 9 teams coming to town, meeting with Texas A&M. It's Arizona State, Baylor, North Texas, TCU, Tennessee, East Texas A&M, Texas State, UT Arlington, and UT Rio Grande Valley. And it is their first invitational of the semester, and they're kicking it off. They've got quite a few on the schedule this semester. They've got 4 in January. So,
okay. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll have Coach here tomorrow. If not, we'll make sure to update folks on everything that's happening there. Let's continue there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We got some text messages that came in the 8 o'clock hour that we weren't able to get to.
Yeah, we have a text from David in Houston, and he says, why after 5, he's referencing the basketball team here, why after 5 years are they still facing the limitations of your team? Year 5 and 6 is weird at this point. Any limitations are due to choices the staff made in recruiting and offensive and defensive philosophy.
Couple things, okay? I believe, and Nick, you can jump in here if you agree with me or disagree. In my opinion, Buzz recruits a certain type of player.
Yeah.
Okay? And those types of players aren't always the 5-star because they have a 3-star, 2-star mentality. Now, they might evolve into being one of the elite players in the league, or they have the ability to be that player. Like I look at Wade Taylor. He was highly regarded, but it takes a special type of person to want to play on both ends of the floor, go through a boot camp that Buzz puts you through, that it's about the family and the team more than it is about your individual accolades. So his style works with a particular brand of player. And I'm going to give an example. Billy Gillespie, I believe, was the same kind of way in a different era of basketball.
Yeah.
And when we have Logan here tomorrow, even Coach Schuberth here in a minute. But the way Coach Gillespie was back in the early 2000s, I don't know if that would translate today. Yeah. And he did get some star players, or he inherited some too. But I think a lot of it is the kind of guy who wants to play at A&M or wherever he is, has to be a blue-collar guy. And oftentimes, blue-collar guys are tryhards. Often. Hello, I'm a tryhard. Ask Nick. I'm not good at most things, so I have to work harder than everybody else. Now, I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case for everybody on the A&M basketball team, but Anderson Garcia, as good as he is what you call a try-hard player, and I mean that with a lot of respect, because he is going to die for the loose ball that seems impossible to get.
Right.
Because that energy is what separates him from other types of people, and that's what I think Buzz goes after. Nick, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, 1,000% agree. That's Callie, that's not me. I 1,000% agree. I switched the cameras wrong.
Oh, okay.
And you're completely right. I mean, if you know, the A&M basketball player, again, using the example of me and you playing basketball, I'm not going to go after that loose ball, but those guys that have that same attitude of being ultra uber aggressive, of diving for that ball and create extra possessions and turn it into points on the other end. I mean, that's the recipe for A&M basketball. It has been since Buzz has been here, and he says it as much. So, you hit the nail on the head, David.
And I also think there's certain types of players that you have to play. I am only, and again, I'm using myself in here, but this is why I've always identified with Buzz. It's because I have not been good at most things in life. And I'm not trying to get a humble pat on the back. Hey, Dave, you're great. You're an awesome host. No, what I mean is everything I do, I have to work harder than others to be somewhat good at. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case for Buzz's players, but that's kind of a mindset you have to have. For instance, who was I listening to? I was listening to Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., on an interview yesterday, and he said how different his upbringing was to his father's, right? And he had to like create to become a really good actor. He had to create like this chip on his shoulder anger to be able to elevate because he didn't grow up as hungry as his dad did living in the streets. And I don't know how I got from Buzz to Ice Cube to here. But my point is, it's a mindset. And I think Buzz recruits people with that mindset that I don't know if your typical 5-star wants to have that. James Harden, I always use him as my example because it's one of the athletes I know best. James Harden, one of the most brilliant basketball players I've ever seen offensively. He ain't going to be doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know why my voice did that. He is not going to do that. We'll get to the text from David in the Pacific Northwest a little bit later because I do want to answer it because I have a different thought on the whole Fox scandal. It's more about how people capitalize on other people's misfortunes, but we'll talk about that in a moment. We'll hit a break. When we come back, the great Tom Schuberth, always dressed like he's going to a meeting in Palm Springs or to church. He's always dressed well. I love that guy. And also, he's a triathlete. How about that? Right now, let's talk Bird Dog, Aggie owner-operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. They are an Airbnb for hunting, so they make your opportunities for you, right? You want to go hunting, they'll set it all up at these 5-star ranches. They still do that, but they want you to know that they make money for landowners to get more hunters on their land, and there's other ways they're doing that as well because they're not just getting folks on your land. They are helping landowners aggregate tax benefits. So we know about ag exemptions and wildlife, but there's so many more opportunities, and they're geniuses at finding those. They're going to optimize and find you the tax benefits out there if you are running cattle on your land or farming. Some of their clients are making between $100 and $500 per acre of land, and they can become your personal consultant, help you maximize the income on your land. If you're a ranch broker, you need to talk with them as they're helping buyers and sellers understand the additional ways to make money. You don't have to sell hunts with this program. The website is birddogit.com, birddogit.com. If you've got a question, by the way, you can send them an email at support@birddogit.com. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984. They have your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The great Tom Schuberth with us. Tom, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, David. I've never been referred to as the great Tom Schuberth, but thank you for the compliment.
I mean, snappy dresser. I mean, you always look good, man. And I know that you've been training. I know you've been traveling. You've been calling games. Life is good?
It is really good. Yeah, good. Staying busy.
So you heard us kind of tail end of the last segment talk about why this team still has some limitations. I gave my perspective of it, limitations on the type of players that they've brought in year 5 and 6. What is your take on that?
Well, your analysis of it was perfect. I mean, in my opinion, in the 34 years that I coached college basketball, when you're hired as a coach, you're hired to win games. I mean, you can say what you want, graduate players, mold them into good men or women, whatever, you're coaching. But the bottom line is every coach is trying to figure out how to win. There's hundreds of thousands of different ways to win. And whatever works for you, that's what you should stick with. I mean, would Coach Williams and his staff love to have maybe 4 or 5 5-star players? Of course, who wouldn't? The better players you have, the greater chance you have to be successful, obviously, in any sport. But that doesn't mean that formula is going to work if you have the better players. And I think Coach Williams and his staff do an incredible job of what they have, they get the most out of. And that, to me, is where a coach makes his money. You reach your potential and sometimes go beyond it. And I think you'll see tonight 2 coaches, Buzz Williams and Porter Mosier, who was here at one time. He started out as a graduate assistant with Tony Baroni, and that's how far back I go. Mm-hmm. I've saw, in my opinion, and I think if you talk to most coaches, Porter Mosier evolve into a good basketball coach. He started out at Little Rock as a head coach, went to Illinois State, actually underachieved and got fired, went to work for Rick Majerus, learned under him, and I'm not saying he wasn't a good coach prior to that, but he changed his philosophy, and he did like a masterful job at Loyola Chicago, and now he's at Oklahoma. So I'm going to defend Coach Williams. He's ranked 10th in the country. They're on an 8-game winning streak, and he's getting the best out of his ability of any coach I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years.
There is something to be said about most talent and best fit, right? And best fit means a couple things. The culture you're trying to establish, especially in today's world of college basketball, the style of basketball you want to play, and guys that are going to be, I think, good leaders in that environment.
Absolutely. There's not a coach in the country that wants to play slow down basketball, or boring, basketball. Every coach would love to play exciting, shoot the three, score 100 points a game. Fan base likes that and all. But you have to play the way your team is designed to win. And so I think that's what Coach Williams does. If he was able to get, some James Hardens in here and some 5-star recruits, I'm sure he'd change his philosophy. The unique thing about his staff and coach is that he gives his guys freedom on offense. Yep. But they're so good on the offensive boards and they buy into the defense. I mean, they have a chance every night, and that's what you want. I don't care who they play. I think they have a chance because of the way they play defense. So, in defense, or to say to that caller or text message, what do you want him to be, first in the country instead of 10th right now? I mean, I think they have a chance to go as high as, going to the Final Four, or maybe losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But most good teams are that way. They're very fragile.
Tom, see, I am, and I think you're the same way, by the way, but most people are, but I'm okay with slow basketball if it wins. The late 90s, when the Rockets would go to Dream and Charles Barkley in the paint, they would score 88 points a game, but it worked.
Absolutely.
It didn't win a championship, that version of them, but it worked. They won 58 games in 1997 with the slowest offense I had ever seen. The Knicks used to do it as well. Like that, if it wins, fans are all in.
No question. In fact, that's, to me, where the great coaching comes in. When you're able to find a way to be elite and win championships and not, quote, have the best talent. And so what I'm impressed with at A&M, and it's kind of like the culture of the entire Aggie nation, Aggie school, is that everybody buys in. It's just got that blue collar mentality. And I think that's what Coach Williams has built his career on, and also this program. And it's refreshing. Again, you hear me come in here complain about the NIL and the portal. I know it's changed. I've been out of the coaching profession 8 years. My coaching buddies remind me all the time. The culture and the process has changed, but it's still, the bottom line is getting players to buy into your system and overachieving regardless of what sport it is. And that's what I think A&M basketball doing and a lot of sports at A&M. I mean,
and here, look, this is the biggest compliment I can give Buzz. It's like Buzz has a time capsule to basketball in 1992 with the way his team is organized. And I'm not just talking about the style of basketball on the floor. The fact that you have guys here from multiple years, that typically people aren't leaving the program. Like in football and a lot of other places, it's like an in and out. He has been able to keep this, in this NIL world, his team that he's had, grooming for the last 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely. Again, I haven't done the research. I probably need to. 8 seniors, 10 guys that play. They have 10 guys almost averaging 5 points a game. I mean, that's like unheard of, know. And those, and I promise, in my opinion, and most coaches, the hardest teams to play against are the balanced teams, and how to figure out how do you beat them. What's the blueprint to beat Texas A&M? I ask every opposing coach that comes in here. They haven't figured it out yet. They don't know. Keep them off the offensive boards. Well, if you did that, you're still going to lose possibly, because teams have done that a little bit and they haven't found a way to win.
If I were to play A&M, I'd force them to shoot threes.
Right.
And last game they shot 19, and they
for 19,
and they won by 20.
Yeah, that's exactly. That was my point. I actually know the staff pretty well at Texas, and I visited with them. I got there early and kind of asking them what do you think, and they were like paralyzed. I mean, they really didn't know what was going to happen. They knew they would give good effort, and I was impressed with Texas the first 20 minutes. But when that game was tied, and going into the second half, if I would have, bet my life on it almost that A&M was going to win, because we didn't play all that good, or they didn't play good, and they were tied. So I knew that was going to happen.
Let's do another segment. We'll talk about the game, because we've talked about big picture. Now let's talk about tonight. All right.
Sounds perfect.
Right now, the difference is real with Rollo Insurance. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for. They do the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They've got 60 offices in the great state of Texas, but their headquarters is right here in College Station on Highway 6. You need to check them out for whatever insurance that you need. Homeowners, car, farmers, business, you name it. They want to take care of you. They've been taking care of my family since we moved to the area, but it doesn't matter. Wherever you live, they can take wonderful care of you, and their priorities are God, family, and country. It's not just what they do, it's the kind of people that they are. Check out the website, rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. I got an introductory message that I'm a part of on that one. Again, rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs, 888-44-ROLLO, or rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. TexAgs Live, presented by David, Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Tom Schuberth is still with us. Tom, tonight, Oklahoma. Okay, first off, we got to talk about the Wade Taylor situation. No Wade Taylor tonight. Not ideal, obviously, but I think this team is built to withstand it. Not for a huge stretch, right? But can they win on the road without Wade tonight?
Definitely. And I don't know if you know what happened last Saturday. Last Saturday, West Virginia was traveling to Kansas. Did you hear the story?
Tell me more.
And their plane had some problems. They had to divert, go back. They landed, had to get on a new plane. They didn't arrive in Lawrence, Kansas, like 4 a.m. Darren DeVries, the head coach there, came from Drake. His son's a star player, and their other, I don't know the guy's name, their second leading scorer, weren't going to play. So they got at 4 a.m. before a Saturday afternoon game at Lawrence, Kansas. Kansas hasn't lost the opening conference game since 1991. West Virginia went in there and beat them. We're up like 15-18 at halftime. So anything can happen in college basketball. And as you know, when it looks the most bleak, that's a lot of times when teams rally. So I know the effort will be there. I have no idea what the outcome will be. I know it's hard to win at Oklahoma, especially after them losing to Alabama so poorly. They're very well coached. They have a high-powered offense. But what I think you lose in that, they're very good defensively. You know, Porter Moser kind of built his reputation on motion offense and then great defensive principles. So I think it'll be a great game. I mean, I would love to see Taylor be there, but I wouldn't be surprised if A&M wins, you know.
But winning on the road in the SEC or anywhere is tough. And if you've been looking at some of these games, you know, obviously this team that A&M's playing, Oklahoma, went to Alabama. They lost by 30 points. Last night, Tennessee got dismantled by 30, and it was Kentucky who lost to Florida. So it is a hard task to go win on the other road, on the other court.
I don't know if you'll ever see a really long winning streak in the SEC. I mean, we're at 8 games now, or A&M is. I actually thought Auburn could lose last night at Texas, and they just jumped out on them and were able to sustain the lead. But, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if A&M is the type of team that wins as many road games as any team out there because they're built on the defense and the rebounding. That is so hard. If A&M's able to get their half-court defense set like they have been, they're elite. They're almost impossible to score on when a team needs a basket. I can't remember the last game where a team really needed a basket and they were able to score against the half-court of A&M. When they're able to turn A&M over and get some baskets in transition, they're obviously not any good, but what defense is. So
sure.
I think it's going to be a good game. I really do. Never count us out. And when you have Wade Taylor, of course, you're never out of the game. But this may help us in the long run and kind of see what this team really is built on.
Oklahoma averaging 83 points a game. And I read your column this morning, your article this morning. They're kind of similar to Texas in the fact that they want to run, they want to just keep running.
Absolutely, and I think their personnel is the same way. You know, Texas had a lot of experience. They added some transfer portal guys, and then they both have an elite freshman, Jeremiah Fears. I think he was a 24th ranked high school player, and again, whether you're 24 or 5, it doesn't really matter. But I think he's exceeded expectations. Yep. I think they probably thought he'd be there 2-3 years. Right now, they're NBA scouts who I know several of them are talking he may come out. He's a little better than Johnson Trey Johnson that played at Texas in the fact he's more of a distributor and true point guard, but he's not as dynamic of a scorer. He averages 17.9. Jalen Moore, their forward. That's
another
been with them.
17.9.
I know. So those two guys, that's a dynamic duo there. They'll be hard to stop, but look what A&M did to Johnson. I made 2 field goals. And what I was so impressed with A&M was it Saturday against Texas, is that they only had 3 blocked shots, but it looked like Texas was afraid to take the ball in there because they were going to get it blocked. Payne had 1, Garcia, and I think Washington all had a block. Yeah. But think about all the shots they altered or made Texas back the ball out. So I think the same thing could happen tonight.
I think Solo and Payne together are averaging just under 3 blocks a game. And that was a conversation I was having with Cade earlier. Like, Solo can guard 1 through 5. That's the beauty of having it. And Andy's close to doing that too.
He is, and that's kind of what defenses are built on now. When you can, switch all 5 or whatever. Again, I think A&M changes up each game based on personnel and all that, and then that's what makes them even more difficult to score against because they're not just a a one-dimensional team on defense. They do a great job of scouting, and so I'm sure Coach Williams and his staff will come up with some kind of game plan as well as defensively, because Wade's an elite defender when he's focused and not in foul trouble and all that. So, it's hard to win on the road. So It wouldn't surprise me if A&M doesn't win, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they come away with a road victory.
Good stuff, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Schuberth here on TexAgs. When we come back, Ryan Brauninger on a mobile. We'll talk to Bronny about recruiting country and more. It's TexAgs Live. When I hear this song, I think of Ryan Brauninger. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time for recruiting country, so let's go straight to the boss. Firearms Hotline, that's where we find Ryan Brauninger, who's traveling. Bronny, what's up, buddy?
Good morning, David. How long does it take you to do a complete shoulder workout in the gym?
Well, recently the split I've been on, I've been combining it with, a push day. So the whole workout, probably an hour and 32 minutes.
What?
How long should it take me?
I just got one done in 28 minutes, and I'm about to hit the road to San Antonio.
That didn't do anything. Hold Hope you feel good.
Okay. Okay.
So remind the folks why you're going to San Antonio, Bronny.
Yeah, All-American Bowl. It used to be called the Army All-American Bowl. Now it is the Navy All-American Bowl. The Army moved theirs to Frisco in late January. But even though it's changed branch of service, it is still the most highly regarded all-star game for high school football players. And this is the first year that they are going to allow, or that they have allowed juniors to play in this game. So not only do you have a good handful of Texas A&M signees that will be participating, but you'll also have 2026 commit Aaron Gregory, as well as a whole host of 2026 offers from Texas A&M. And if you're a subscriber to the site, Jason Howell has started a thread to keep you updated on what's going on in San Antonio. He got a lot of interviews done yesterday with some of these kids. And so I am out on my way to join him there. And Kay Drawn will be there as well. And on Friday, we have the All-American Bowl Combine, which is the biggest circus on the recruiting calendar. But it is very good for us because there are, I'd say, about 450 kids from across the country that come and participate in this thing. They do all the combine testing and measurements, and then they go into some one-on-one stuff. So there are a lot of opportunities for us, being an independent site, to add to our database for, videos and pictures and headshots and all those types of things. But it is an absolute bear to cover, so we'll need all three, or I guess all six hands on deck for that Friday coverage. And then Jason and Cade will be staying in San Antonio on Saturday for the actual game. I will be heading back to College Station Friday night as we get set to host A&M's first junior day of the year, which will happen on Saturday the 11th as well.
Yeah, you would think that things would start slowing down for you guys with the portal basically closing up shop and all but no, it's thing after thing, Bronny.
I mean, that's what you signed up for, right? And I'll never complain about it. This is a blessing to do this job, and I'm honored every day to wake up. And I've said it a lot. My brain functions on one level. My brain fires on one thing, and it's sports. And I'm one of the few people lucky enough to be walking the planet to work in an industry that I love and that my brain functions in. So, it's a bear. It's a lot of stuff all at once, but it's the job, and I'm not complaining.
Before we move on to Junior Day, let's keep it there for the All-American Bowl for a moment. So if someone's going to watch on Saturday, tell them what to watch out for.
Well, there's 5 A&M signees that believe that they're all on the West roster. Aaron Gregory, the 2026 commit, is on the East roster. But so from an A&M signee perspective, tight end, Keati Armstrong, cornerback, Adonis Curry, outside linebacker, Marco Jones, defensive lineman, Chase Sims, and linebacker, Noah McHale, are all on the West roster, as well as Lamont Rogers. Excuse me, so I forgot about Lamont, offensive lineman Lamont Rogers. So the West team is going to be, I think A&M is the most represented school there in San Antonio. This is the most A&M signee/commits that I think I've seen in a game since the Under Armour game with that kind of infamous now class of 2022 in Orlando. I was there covering that, and there were A&M kids everywhere at that event. But this is the most since then, and it's one of the highest representations for Texas A&M at any All-Star game, and we felt like since that was kind of a special occasion that all of us would go out there to cover it.
Some of those guys will be moving in soon. We'll get to that. But let's talk about Junior Day. I know you had a post up on the boards or a response. Just talk a little bit about some of the names we might see this weekend, or we should see this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at Junior Days, all of them for the power programs across the region are all going to fall on similar weekends. And I've never been a big believer too much in a kid's telling you where he's leaning by which Junior Day he decides to go to, or a kid's going to tell you which way he's leaning by which spring game he decides to go to. I think that's a tad overstated in terms of trying to read the recruitments. That being said, A&M is going to have a loaded visitor list this weekend and next. You'll start with this weekend with the top 2 offensive tackle prospects in the country in the class of 26, Jackson Cantwell out of Nixa, Missouri, and then Emmanuel Ahenicho out of Georgetown Prep up in Maryland. Those two are lay-down, 5-star. I mean, they're of Lamont Rogers caliber type of tackles. And Jackson Cantwell, I believe, is the number 1 rated composite player in the country right now in the class of 2026. It's tough to say that A&M's got a lead or, got how much of a foothold they even have in the recruitment. But the fact that he's going to make his first trip after the new year down to College Station should tell you a little bit of something that even if it's that A&M is going to have a little bit of sticking power in the recruitment. Ahenicho, we have way less of a feel for. I mentioned that these 2026s could play in these all-star games. Both Cantwell and Ahenicho play in the Under Armour game. They got to go up against Landon Rink quite a bit. Landon, as he often does, really made a name for himself at that event, but also made a name for himself with the other players that he was going up against because Landon always commands respect for how he plays the game, how hard he practices, and how much fun he has while doing it. So I think a lot of people, both players and coaches that were out there in Orlando for the Under Armour game, took notice of Landon Rink, and I think Cantwell and Ahenicho were two of those as well.
And Ahenicho, was that one that we knew he was coming, or has that kind of been more recent?
No, we broke that news last night.
Okay.
I found out yesterday during the day and then broke the news last night. Cantwell had been public about coming to College Station this weekend.
And then, obviously, I can't overstate how important it would be to get one of those guys. 2 would be amazing, obviously, but 1 would be so these are names that I guess we don't have a real read on what they want to do short term, long term, but just talk about the ability to get one of these, what that would mean.
Well, I think more so you look at it through the lens of what Adam Cushing has done with his position group since he arrived at Texas A&M. First of all, the on-field performance, did the offensive line get better, stay the same, or get worse from last year?
Got better.
They got better. Did he lose any players? I think they lost 2 players in the transfer portal, and T.J. Shanahan and Cam Dewberry, both of which were in and out of the lineup. I think you probably would like to keep one of them, but you didn't. But is the offensive line in a bad spot going into next year? No.
No.
You're going to return 5 starters. I mean, you could go. I could go as saying you're going to return 7 starters when you consider Reuben Fathery and also Martin Naboo coming back. And all these other guys, I mean, I guess we're still waiting an official announcement from Trey Zune. But the fact that you haven't heard any NFL draft declaration from him certainly leads us to believe that the Aggies are in a good spot to get their left tackle back. On top of that, they are extremely high on that group of freshmen that redshirted. Ashton Funk, Papa Afua, Blake Ivy, and Robbie Bourdon. And then, Nuño, you're bringing in 6 offensive linemen, all of which are early enrollees. So you're going to have 10 freshman offensive linemen in your room this spring, either red shirts or true. That is and you're also bringing back all that experience. How much better are these young kids going to get with Adam Cushing coaching them, but also the older guys that have played so much ball in the SEC in the room with them? So you can be really choosy in the class of 2026, and obviously Jackson Cantwell and Emmanuel Ahenicho are never going to go anywhere from the top of your board. But it's not like a put your feet up kind of thing, but you can be really picky. Like, you don't have to cast a wide net in 2026 if you don't want to, because you're really fired up about what you've got returning on the field and what you've got returning in the room.
Talking to Ryan Brauninger here on TexAgs Live. If you have a question for Bronny, you can text that in at 979-693-1150, or you can send it on the YouTube or TexAgs chat. We'll get to those here in a moment. What is it about Cushing? I mean, because there's 2 parts of him that I think are very interesting. A, we saw the development, and B, he's got a way of not only recruiting, but just his relationships with these recruits and these young men go a long, long way. What is it about Adam Cushing that stands out?
Well, I think he's just so personable. And we were out there yesterday at move-in day, and there wasn't an assistant coach working harder to get, TVs, refrigerators, laundry baskets, all kind of stuff from the kids and parents' cars up to their dorm rooms. Like Coach Cushing was as involved as anybody with the offensive linemen that were showing up. And I think he wants to build good players. He doesn't do that by screaming and hollering. He wants to teach them the game and teach them the technique. And I think just because of the interactions, now I've seen him get fiery a few times at these camps, and you talk to some of the A&M offensive linemen, and they said, yeah, he's got to. If you push him hard enough, like he'll get after you. But his number one priority when he goes out to practice is to teach, and I think that was very well received by the current offensive line group, considering what they had experienced in the past. And I think that you talk to some of these recruits. We talked to Jonte Newman, and one of the when he committed, and one of the bigger points he made as to why he chose A&M over Oklahoma, Texas, everybody else that was kind of coming at him was because of the time that Adam Cushing took to break down his film and sit there and watch his film and be critical, but be critical in a way to teach, not be critical in a way to kind of demean or put him down. And he really enjoyed that film study session with Coach Cushing. So he just takes the time to do the little things. I thought that was really cool yesterday to see him working as hard as he was to help move kids in and his offensive linemen in. And I think that probably goes a long way with the parents and the guardians of these kids, right? Like to see the man that you're sending your son to be around every day for the next however many years. On day one, he's out there working and trying to help you move, like I said, TVs, refrigerators, comforters, all kind of stuff. Just get their dorm room set up. That certainly, to me, seems like it's going to leave a good impression and get off on the right foot.
Bronny, I want you to update the audience on Eric Carner because he's the name that we heard a lot about, then we didn't, then I saw your update yesterday. So just kind of remind folks where things are with Eric Carner.
Yeah, so I talked to Eric for a little bit yesterday, and it's been a long time coming. He committed to Jimbo before the coaching change last year, signed with the Aggies, but had just undergone a shoulder surgery to clean some stuff up and make some repairs in his shoulder. And A&M called him and said, "Hey, we still want you and all that kind of stuff, but with your shoulder injury, we don't want to start your clock. Would you be willing to take a gray shirt? That way you don't start your eligibility counter, and we also get to use that scholarship in another place." And Eric agreed to it. And so he essentially is enrolled, not essentially, he did enroll yesterday and moved to College Station with the class of 2025 as a signing member of the class of 2024. But, you go back and you think about his high school tape. He's from Elmhurst, Illinois, and he's just got a lot of pass catcherish traits from the tight end position. He's probably 6'4", 225, 235 pounds right now. He could fit potentially in an H-back role. I could see him developing there. He is very gifted as a receiver, and it's just been so long since he's played football. He's coming back from a shoulder injury. We'll have to see kind of how the weight sticks to him, how he handles the physicality at the line of scrimmage. But he is a very gifted receiver, and you look at the tight end room going into the season now, and especially with the spring, and you're going to have 5 scholarship tight ends in the room, and you feel good about a couple of those emerging. And I'm just telling you, the guy that everybody's talking about that I think went extremely kind of under the radar, maybe even unheralded, you could call it, when A&M got him out of the transfer portal is Nate Berkshire. I'm really intrigued to see how this kid looks when he gets to campus, how he looks this spring, because there are a lot of people talking about what kind of athletic gifts he's got and how he was just scratching the surface toward the end of this past football season in Lincoln at Nebraska. And a lot of even NFL folks were getting intrigued because of his overall athletic profile. So putting a pin in that one, and Mike O'Reilly, obviously, neither one of them are coming in with huge production numbers, but they were brought in to fill roles and then, just kind of putting a pin in both of those, especially Berkshire, because of just all the stuff we've heard about him.
Well, I'm looking at their size. Like, I'm looking right here, 6'5", 250 for Berkshire. Like, that's It's a big dude. And Michael Riley, I don't have his numbers in front of me, but another obviously imposing figure.
Yeah, Michael Riley was like just north of 6'5" and like 268 pounds, I was told. So, yeah, two big dudes to go along with Theo. And then Keati Armstrong, everybody that was, so all the national media outlets that were in San Antonio for the arrival of all these players, Keati Armstrong was the talk of the town in the first day, just as like passing the eyeball test. First guy off the bus. We've said that a bunch about Keati since A&M's been after him. And he didn't disappoint. I think he showed up at, without shoes on, he was just a touch under 6'6", 268 pounds. And his wingspan is like just over 7 foot.
That is the great Ryan Brauninger. I'm sorry I called you great. Billy's going to tell me about that. We're going to come back with more Bronny. I want to talk about the portal and also some of the guys that you noted on move-in day. So just get into that on the other side of the break. And again, if you have a question for Bronny, you can do that at 979-693-1150. So we'll put Bronny on hold, and we'll come back with him here in a moment. Right now, let's talk Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature. They're dedicated to the conservation of a healthy community, respect for that native landscape and wildlife. We're talking 2,600 acres of open space, 30 miles of trails and homes. They connect families to nature and to each other. They have an extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape. It includes walking and equestrian paths, creeks and ponds and gathering areas. They're a place for families to cherish generation after generation. They've got all the beautiful animals you can imagine. The white-tailed deer, the songbirds, the rabbits, the turtles. And homeowners there sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you're coming back to that pristine countryside place. You can learn more at millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go back to the Boss Firearms Hotline. We're talking to Ryan Brauninger on Recruiting Country. Brian, you got some texts in about Noah Thomas moving on and what that means to the wide receiver room. Do you see them adding somebody? I guess this window is going to kind of depend on these final 4 teams. If anybody comes into the portal of substance, is it maybe something they have to wait until spring?
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's hard to say that they're going to take another wide receiver in this window because, like you said, they're not just going to go add a body. And the goal was to try to get Noah back. It felt like that was going another direction for the last few days. But right now, we're looking at those playoff teams. And it's not just at wide receiver. It's also at defensive tackle. And should somebody go in that you think is a difference maker, can help you in your rotation at those positions, then yeah, I think A&M will make a run at one of those two. But also think that this could go into the spring window. And if you look at last year's spring portal window, A&M did pretty good work. I mean, they got Solomon DeShields, they got Shane Calhoun, they got Coley Fayu. I think Jacob Bostic was the other one. They added 4 players in that spring portal window. So maybe there was one more in there that I'm missing. But so you can go out and find guys that either come in and start or come in and are rotational players. I mean, how many snaps this year were Solomon DeShields and Shane Calhoun on the field? I mean, not all of them, but maybe a third to half. I don't know. And obviously, Coley ended up being your starter at center for, 10, 11 games. So there's still some work to be done, and there'll probably be some quality that they can go out and find in that.
One of the things you talked about yesterday, Bronny, was how some of these young men that are moved in yesterday, how impressive they looked. So I'm going to just take them in parts. Let's start off with Tyler Thomas, that you said he completely reshaped his body. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, he looks awesome. And last time I saw Tyler in person was in the preseason, so it had been a little bit since I laid my own eyes on him. I know Kay Drawn went to a couple of Dickinson games this year. But, I mean, he walked up, and it was very noticeable that he has been eating right, getting in the gym, doing a lot of training. He looks like a really impressive young SEC offensive lineman now, like really tightened up his body. And I would say the same thing about DJ Sanders from Belleville. I saw DJ in, I guess that was early November in a playoff game when they played in Bryan, and even since then, it looks like he's been getting to work. And what happens is after these kids sign and, especially after their senior seasons end, A&M will go ahead and send them their workout stuff and kind of give them a preview of what the expectations are going to be in the weight room when they arrive in College Station. And some kids will heed that warning, some kids will not. And then, that'll kind of be a determining factor of how their spring semester goes with Tommy Moffitt. But For DJ Sanders and for Tyler Thomas, they both look like they've really gotten to work and tightened themselves up ahead of their move to College Station. And the third one that I've never seen Nelson McGuire ever in person. He's a Dallas kid. The day that he came to camp at Texas A&M, I was in Omaha, so I did not get to see him. This kid looks like he is a real people mover. I mean, he's kind of flat-bellied, broad shoulders, and then his lower body looks like a power lifter. Like it's very, very defined and powerful in his lower body. So really impressed with Nelson McGuire. Jason had kind of been singing his praises up there in the Metroplex. But the first time I get to see him, I was really impressed.
Talking to Ryan Brauninger. Bronny, am I right? Jerome Miles will move in the summer. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, I heard last night it'll be late May.
Okay.
Is whenever he'll move to College Station. Got an update from somebody out west on his rehab. Says he'll start jumping this week. He measured in at his last physical therapy appointment at I think it was just south of 6'4", so like 6'3 3/4", 211 pounds. And this is a kid that at that height and weight has the fastest time in the 100 meters in the state of Utah ever. And so, like, this is a rare type of athlete. And you always are kind of hesitant when they're coming off of knee surgeries and knee injuries. But if he gets back to 100%, you look at the A&M receiver room, and yeah, you lose Noah, and that's a productive player that has been around the block and in your program and had some comfortability here and was playing decently well down the stretch. But next year's receiver room, you're going to have 3 former 5-stars in it with Terry Bussey, Micah Hudson, and Jerome Miles.
I think it was your first time to see Brady Hart in person too, right?
No, I've seen Brady whenever the weekend he came for the Texas game and committed. I went and met him at one of the hotels here in town.
Okay. And he and Eli Morcos were here in town. Just, I think you got to catch up with at least one of them, right?
Yeah, I talked to Brady for a little bit. He was named Mr. Florida Football Player of the Year as a 16-year-old, and then wins a state championship for Cocoa, Florida, and subsequently moves to enroll at Texas A&M as a 16-year-old. And, I mean, you can kind of try to wrap your head around that, David, because you've got 16-year-olds. And could you imagine the twins enrolling in college? And Brady is extremely, extremely cerebral, like way ahead of his age in terms of maturity and intelligence and, just the comfortability of talking to media and handling himself. Extremely impressive kid. And what was funny is, Katie Smith was out there shooting photos for us yesterday. She put up a photo gallery on TexAgs of all the move-ins, and obviously she doesn't know these kids, and she doesn't really follow. She watches football, but she doesn't know it. But Brady Hart and Eli Morcos walked up almost at the same time, and I said, Katie, those are the 2 quarterbacks. We need some photos. And so she takes the photos. The kids walk in as they're moving in, and she goes, "They look like quarterbacks." I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "They got quarterback faces. They got quarterback traits." And so that's a pretty good way for even a novice can see it. Somebody that doesn't follow football like that, she says they look like quarterbacks. That's a pretty good start.
Hey, Bronny, last thing for you. Kevin Concepcion moved in yesterday as well. Good to have him on campus early up. Yeah, all those early enrollees, I think the only couple that aren't here right now are Mario Craver, which will be this weekend, and then Tyler Onyedim will also be this weekend. I heard last night that Kevin Concepcion got all the newcomers, or a lot of the newcomers, I don't know if it was all of them, but a lot of the newcomers, whether it be transfer guys, high school guys, got them together, and they went and had a late-night throwing session at the indoor at A&M on day one. So guys that are coming in from different places ready to work. Obviously, the high school guys are excited to get to work here. And, you got to look at it from Mike Elko's perspective as everything going forward now it is to own, right? Year one was okay, probably good. Nobody would call it great, especially with how it ended. Frustratingly good, I'd say is a fair way to describe year one under Mike Elko. But everything that happens going forward, David, is his. It's his roster, his coaching staff decisions, his transfer portal decisions, all that. It's all his now. So I think now, one of the more interesting storylines in year two under Elko going forward will be, what does the roster look like? What's the culture look like? As much as I like Noah, he was a member of that class of 2022, and that thing has just dwindled down to nothing now. How much of those guys that were signed and recruited by Jimbo, there's not many of them left over. At least the class of 23, they will have spent as much time under Coach Elko as they did under Jimbo now. So there's just some things to look for in the roster and how the culture is changing going forward that I think are the most intriguing parts of this upcoming spring. Bronny, thank you very much. Safe travels, bud.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan Brauninger there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. We will hit a break. We'll come back with Pounding the Rock. We got Tap and Luke coming into the studio right now. We're talking Heritage Films. That's Chance McClain's company. They make documentary films about families, family businesses, family ranches. If you haven't considered this as an option for your family, you really should, because the beauty of Heritage Films is they'll take your family's story and they'll turn it into a 2-hour documentary. And you may think to yourself, why would I want to do that? We did my father's story and got to watch it with my kids. And later on in life, they'll be able to watch it with their kids, and we'll keep the family stories clear. And that's the one thing about my dad telling his story, right? It's him telling his story. When I try to play the game of telephone, I always mess it up. It's there, and it's done in a first-class style. You can call them up, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341, or go to yourheritagefilm.com. That is yourheritagefilm.com. Typically, this is Pounding the Rock on TexAgs Live. Now I'm going to give him time to come up with something funny. Pounding the Pebble with Luke Evangelist. Tap, I think, is busy. That's all right. So we have, we got Luke. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Nothing funny to say?
No, because TexAgs is a family, and why would I ever say anything mean about a family member?
This is true. You've tried before.
I have, but have you noticed I haven't taken a shot at you in a long
Ever
time?
since the whole joke about test. Never mind.
Oh, okay. No, that wasn't that bad. That was good from your end, but
Thank you. Thank you.
I've come at you before after that.
Have you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just been a while.
You best not miss. Hey, let's talk a little basketball.
Yeah.
Disappointed to hear that Wade's not playing, obviously, because I want them at full strength and he's their best player.
Yeah.
What do they do without Wade tonight on the road?
You got to find someone else to score. And I think in years past, Wade not playing would have totally doomed the offense because last season he's averaging close to 20 points a game. He can go off for 30, even 40 at any time. This season, he's only got one 20-plus point performance, and he's averaging like 5 less points per game. So he's taken more of a distributor role. His assist numbers are up as high as they've ever been in his career. So I think A&M's going to miss more his facilitation than his scoring. And the beauty about A&M being so deep and bringing in a guard like Zurich Phelps in the transfer portal is that you can replace that production. And dare I say, the offense actually looked pretty good when Wade had to miss time against Texas. Against Purdue, when Wade went out with like a minute left, it was Manny who stepped up and made all those free throws. Against Texas, it was Zurich Phelps. So players have had to step up in his absence before. And if there was ever a game to miss, you hate to say it's this one because, again, you're playing a top 20 team, but this is technically your easiest game for the next week and a half. So if there was ever a time for him to miss a game and get healthy, it's probably this one.
Here's where I worry, though, because even if Wade is not scoring 20-plus points a game, when he's on the floor, they have to account for him.
Yeah.
So now they'll put that emphasis on Zurich probably, right?
Yeah.
Which is where the others need to step up, right? It's not just about Zurich, scoring a couple more buckets because he had, 18 the other night?
Yeah.
It's about, all right, well, you better hit your open shots. You better not go 2 of 19 on the road, right?
Yeah.
And they won by 20 doing that, but still, somebody else beyond Zurich Phelps and Pharrell Payne, there's going to have to be a third. I don't know if scorer's the right way, but somebody, if Wilcher, maybe gets hot and gives them 10, 12 points, then we're talking about replacing that in a good way.
Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about. What would doom them last year is when Wade was off the floor, it was all right. All we have to worry about is boots. Now this year, just adding Payne gives them such a new element down low. You can now feed the post. And the best part about Payne is he's finding his game as of late. He's 18 of 19 in his last 4 games against Power 4 opponents. So that's over 90% from the field. And he's starting to make free throws. I know that's not the strength. When you're getting a player like Pharrell Payne, who historically has shot 45% from the free throw line in his career, if you can just get him over 50%, that's a win. He made 56% from the line against Texas. If you can just get him to that point past 50, he's going to be dangerous. And if he's making shots from the field, that's going to require Oklahoma to put a lot more resources into stopping him. A lot more double teams, a lot more opportunities to get fouled and send him to the line. So I think Payne is the key. And when you look at Oklahoma, roster-wise, they're kind of built like A&M. Their tallest player that is really making an impact is 6'10", and he's kind of imagine me, but I'm 6'10", right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of built like me. Payne is massive. He's built like you, right? He's in the gym. He lifts weights. He's tracking his macros. He can only eat 72 grams of chicken. 73 would send his body into total disarray.
See, that's obviously you don't understand.
Right.
It's actually, no, you want to go above on the protein.
Okay,
you want to cut out. Maybe.
Well, anyways, imagine me playing against you in basketball, right? It's probably a disadvantage. I think Payne against Sam Godwin is going to have a great advantage down low in the paint. And Oklahoma just gave up 56 points in the paint to Alabama. If A&M can punish them down low with Payne, I think it's going to be a recipe for success.
I'm not suggesting this. I don't think they'll do it. But just out of curiosity, when a guy is around a 50 to 60% free throw shooter, in close games, in conference play, could you see a hack-a-shack kind of thinking? Who did they do that to last year? It wasn't Andy, because Andy hits his free throws. I'm trying to remember.
Wildens Levesque.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wildens Levesque. Could you see that scenario popping in?
If they were going to do that, they can't do that when Payne's around the paint because he had 3 and 1s against Texas. So if you're giving him any chance to make a shot,
he'll make it.
He's going to make it more often than not. Like I said, he's 18 of 19 from the field against his last 4 teams that are actually good on defense. So if they're going to do that, they better do it before A&M gets into their half-court offense. But I think the key is going to be making free throws because Oklahoma makes 80% of their free throws. They're the 6th best team in the country. So A&M can't defend. A&M needs to defend without fouling. And on the flip side, A&M needs to force their way to the line like they did against Texas, like they've done against any team when they've won a big game on the road. If A&M is shooting 10 to 15 free throws, it's probably not going to be a good night for A&M. You need to see them pushing 20 to 25, getting to the line, getting their players in foul trouble. Oklahoma fouled 23 times against Alabama, and Alabama shot a lot of free throws, and that's why they were able to pull away.
Well, and that's the formula for A&M, right? Yeah. So rebounding-wise, didn't they get destroyed on the boards by Bama?
Oklahoma's the worst rebounding team in in the SEC. I was about to say Big 12. Worst rebounding team in the SEC. If you look at power conference teams, they're in the bottom 5. The only team that A&M has played that's worse than them is Purdue, and Purdue's like a decent rebounding team because they don't miss a ton of shots. Oklahoma misses a ton of shots, and they don't rebound. So it was like if you took A&M's greatest strength and took it away from them, that's Oklahoma's offense because they're not generating a lot of second chance points. They only had 4 against Oklahoma, and they also can't really defend they can't defend their own defensive glass, so teams get a lot of offensive rebounds on them, and that's what A&M's the best in the country at. So the key is getting a lot of second chance points and offensive rebounds on a team that can't protect either glass.
I was going to ask Coach Schuberth this question, but I'll ask you, and it's not even an ask, it's more of a talking point. One of the beauties, I think, of this coaching staff is their ability to make changes at the break. And I even asked Buzz about it earlier this week. They will typically take something away from you, which I know a lot of teams do. But if your best player is a freshman, they're going to try to take him out of the game, and he's not going to get his. And oh, by the way, Oklahoma, maybe he's not their best player, but their young freshman, he's pretty darn good.
I think Jeremiah Fears is their best player, even though he's tied in scoring with Jalen Moore. I watched him play against Michigan because obviously I had a rooting interest in that game, but he was phenomenal. Oklahoma was down by double digits. Jeremiah Fears brought them all the way back and then had a 4-point play to win the game. He's a phenomenal player, and A&M has had a lot of experience playing against really great freshmen. They had the 2 from Rutgers, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. They had Trey Johnson. They broke Trey Johnson.
They did.
By the way, he had 11 points, only 4 from the field. He was 2 for 13, 0 for 5 from the 3-point line. So A&M has experience getting into younger players' heads, but the problem is Oklahoma has a lot of weapons that they can go to, and if they get hot from the 3-point line, it's going to be a tough night. Especially, I know Wade makes a lot of impact on the offensive end, but also people don't think about how on defense, he's great at getting steals. He plays his matchups really well. He's able to switch even though he's an undersized guard. So you're going to see a lot of Zurich Phelps on Jeremiah Fears and a lot of Solomon Washington on Jalen Moore.
Luke, we know that defense travels, but it is hard to win on the road. And it feels like I'm doing a show in football from a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, what happened to Tennessee yesterday? Like, I don't know if that was just a bad night. You can't have a semi-bad night on the road, much less a really bad night on the road. And that's what happened.
Yeah, you look at Florida, who gave up 106 to Kentucky, and then they played the number 1 team in the country and give up like under 50. It's unbelievable. SEC teams are a combined 135-5 at home this year. So A&M's walking into not the most intimidating environment against not the most intimidating team. I know there's a number next to Oklahoma's name, but by all metrics, this is a top 40 team, not a top 20 team in the country. I know you're having to do it shorthanded, but A&M is capable of winning on the road in the SEC. And I mean, I hate to say this, but this is going to be one of their easiest road games of the year. I know they're without Wade Taylor, but if there was ever a time to get a road win, it's today, because you're going to have to play teams like Florida, teams like Mississippi State in intimidating environments. And those are teams that can punish you in all 3 phases. Oklahoma is notably weak where A&M is strong. So A&M needs to be the more physical team. And that's the key to winning on the road is free throws, rebound margin, and turning the ball over. A&M and Oklahoma are pretty similar on turning the ball over. Rebounding, A&M has a huge advantage. Free throws, Oklahoma has a huge advantage, but they don't get to the line as much as A&M.
Give me a name beyond the ones we've talked about. We've talked about Zurich. We've talked about Pharrell tonight. That has to be somebody we watch, and his success could be attributed to A&M winning.
C.J. Wilcher, for sure, because everyone has seen what he can do. His minutes are down compared to his role in Nebraska, but he's either wildly inefficient or really efficient. If he can make that first shot, it's on go from there, and he's going to get you close to double-digit points. But if he misses the first couple, it's hard for him to get back in that rhythm. Texas, I thought, even though Wilcher put up a big goose egg against Texas, it was pretty understood the kind of weapon they thought he was because they were face guarding him. Anytime Wilcher was in to try and get a play for him, Texas was all eyes on Wilcher.
Yep.
And I know he's drawing a lot of that attention, but if Oklahoma puts that same attention on him and he's able to break free and get off a couple shots, that's going to be the difference for me because he can get hot quicker than anybody not named Wade Taylor. And without Wade, you're going to need a big night from CJ Wilcher.
Should I stop being whiny about taking too many three-point shots? Because, I mean, this has been what they've done, and it's been effective, you know?
It's hard to complain when the direct result of that is all these offensive rebounds and second chance points. But you would, if A&M started being an efficient offense like Purdue and they had the offensive rebounding to go with it, they'd be one of the best teams in the country. But I think you can't ask for too much, right? This team is who they are. We've seen this DNA time and time again. If you can get 30+% from the three-point line, I think that's a win.
That's a heck of a win,
But the problem is when they shoot 30 to get there, or they're shooting 35 to get there. I think the key for A&M, especially now that they have a player like Payne down low, no more than 20. I think 20 is the upper limit because you got to feed the post.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I just think it comes down to, are they good shots?
Yeah.
I'm okay with taking a good shot and missing.
Mm-hmm.
Also with certain dudes, right? There's certain guys that are like, look, you don't have a green light, but in this situation you have a green light. I just don't like the ones that are like heat check and it's not named Wade Taylor, right? Like you're 35 feet out. I don't know. I'm going to take the shot. I feel like it's somewhat open. Those are the ones that drive me crazy. But I don't think that this team, I think they don't do that often.
Right.
What happens is they shoot so many. I'm like, oh man, like against a team that's hitting. But again, that's part of their strategy. I don't think Buzz is saying take as many threes as you want.
Right.
But if there's an open shot, they got to take it.
Yeah, and also taking all those outside shots, even if you're not making them, is going to force the defense to play you out there because A&M, just like any other team in the country, can get hot in a moment's notice.
Yep.
So even if the shots aren't falling, you're still creating that indecision in that split second. Okay, I need to close out to a guy like Anderson Garcia or Solomon Washington, who aren't three-point shooters by the definition, but they can still make a couple.
Right.
And having defenses worried about the outside game makes the inside even more open. And I think that's the key for A&M is continue to pound away inside. You're the more physical team. You have the better offensive rebounders. You have the best post player in the game. And for Payne, you have to use him.
Luke, good stuff, buddy. Thank you very much. All right, when we come back on TexAgs Live, a short segment. I'm talking super short. That's okay. We'll get you ready for the Thursday show. It's TexAgs Live. Who's this singing, Kelly?
I need the. There's no one singing right now, so that's an unfair question.
Keep going. Nick knows. Nick, who is it?
Walker, obviously. From Yellowstone, Dave.
Thank you.
Come on. Yeah.
No.
Ryan Bingham.
Ryan Bingham, yes.
I don't watch Yellowstone.
But you know Ryan Bingham.
No.
2 albums ago, it was terrible.
Hey,
but
David,
I think,
can you do me a favor and scoot a little to your right?
You want me to
On-air production meeting?
You want me to go to my right?
Yeah, a little bit.
To the
You're
three.
a little off-center. Oh, that looks great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, everybody. I'm David Nuño. This is TexAgs Live. We're going to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Callie Gardner, who I affectionately call Calita. You have a text for us?
I do. We have a text from David in the Pacific Northwest, and he wants to know your thoughts on the Fox Sports scandal.
Have you guys been seeing this? Nick, have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So it's all over my timeline, and that's not even part of my algorithm thing.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, look, I don't know. Maybe Fox Sports, things get down there differently than places I've ever worked at. It's legal matter. It'll come to light. I know, what's his name? Skip Bayless has been involved in a lot of drama throughout his career, but more recently, since he left there, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with Skip. But what I wanted to take this is like how so many people are making their business, like the way they get content out is about other people's failures.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I really like Marcellus Wiley. I don't know if you know who that is, but and a former NFL player, was on Fox Sports forever, was on ESPN forever. He's got a YouTube channel, and his whole thing recently has been about drama behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, I worked with this guy, this is what I know. I worked with this guy, this is what, like, and he's made a whole business out of it. And I think he's really good. Okay? I think he's really good. And I catch myself watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, what does he have to say about Skip? Oh, he knows a little bit about, he knows Joy. He knows a lot about Joy. And I want, but I think it's weird that we're in a world that, like, that's how you get your algorithm up, is to talk about, can you imagine if we did?
That's what the people want to hear.
Yeah, but why do we want to hear it?
Because it's interesting.
Yeah, but
yeah,
like,
Callie's completely about it.
No, I'm not. I don't even.
Do you like drama?
No, I don't know even really what's happening. I had to have people in the back yesterday explain to me what was going on. And you know who of all people knew a lot about it was Ryan Brauninger.
Bronny's all in.
He knew a lot about it.
Yeah.
And Kay did too, but
I just don't feel like I need to make my clicks by talking about other people's issues. But I know it's a business model that's out there today. I just wouldn't do it. But then I catch myself watching it sometimes too. They're like, you know, YouTube is really smart about, hey, David, I think you'd like this video. No, I won't. And then it starts playing it for a second. You're like, hold on, I think I need to watch this now. Anyway, thank
people
you,
just
Callie.
put too much out there.
I think we're out of time. So just like that, we're going to call it a day. Like Skip Bayless's career. We'll see you next time.